NBC's Valerie Castro's in Pennsylvania, where Mangione remains in custody. Also with us, former FBI supervisor Rob D'Amico and retired NYPD officer Jillian Snyder. She's also an adjunct lecturer at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Valerie, let's start with these new details about Mangione allegedly doubling back to evade capture. What more are we learning about that timeline?
Hi, Anna. Good to be with you. Even though Mangione is now in custody, police continue their investigation and they continue to review surveillance video from the day of the shooting. They now say that they believe Mangione rode a bicycle into and out of Central Park, then took a cab uptown to the George Washington Bridge area. That's where they say that he appears to have boarded a subway train and headed back downtown towards Penn Station. And from there is where he made his way into Pennsylvania. They say he stopped in Philadelphia and made his way as far west as Pittsburgh before then heading back east and ending up in Altoona, where he was arrested earlier this week.
And Valerie, Mangione remains in custody there in Pennsylvania. As police follow this evidence in New York, looking to further connect Mangione to the crime, where do the efforts stand to extradite him from where you are back to Manhattan?
Well, we know that his defense attorney plans to continue to fight extradition back to New York. Yesterday, he filed a writ of habeas corpus petition, essentially arguing that he is being unlawfully detained here without bail. There are a couple of hearings set for later in this month where that extradition hearing will come up. But New York Governor Kathy Hochul has indicated she is working with authorities here in Pennsylvania, specifically the Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro, in hopes of expediting that extradition process. However, at this point, it could still take several more days, if not weeks. Anna?
Okay, thank you so much for those updates, Valerie Castro. And Rob, let's talk about this new information in the search for a motive. Does it surprise you that Mangione was not insured by United Healthcare? How much does that perhaps complicate why he did it if he did it?
It does a little bit, but then again, I think this they're going to find out that there was a bigger plot in here. If he didn't have them as a healthcare, then he looked at him or other CEOs, and he may have targeted other CEOs. We don't know that. I think the notebook with the plans, I think all the browser history in his computer are going to give that away. But I always question, why did he still have the gun? If he did this, why didn't he throw the gun in a river when he's in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh? Well, he may have been looking to continue this action by looking at other CEOs. It might have been this one was more vulnerable. He found out information that he could take action on. He did it and then was going to look to do something else.
Jillian, there's the reporting that Mangione had suffered some kind of a back injury, and police are telling us this about that.
He posted x-rays of screws being inserted into his spine. So the injury that he suffered was a life-changing, life-altering injury, and that's what may have put him on this path.
Of course, there's a big leap from back pain to murder. So how might police be trying to connect the dots or fill that gap?
So I think what they're trying to do is figure out, was his pain that he was suffering, was that actually the rationale behind his crime? Or is he so upset with the healthcare industry, how he feels slighted by the healthcare industry, and that's what actually drove him to commit these crimes? The unfortunate reality is so many Americans are dealing with chronic health issues, chronic pain issues, and most of them don't go out and hurt people, let alone murder people.
Yeah, exactly, which is, again, something that is a key piece of this. It sparked outrage because of what people have experienced. But, Rob, investigators say Mangione, he went silent for months before the killing, his family even filing a missing persons report recently. How are police putting together what happened during that time, and how important is it to figure that out?
It could be tough, but I think he wrote enough online that they're going to start doing like a timeline of when he started disappearing from his social circles that he was used to engaging with, when he started writing things, when did it come out that he liked, the hero, the Unabomber, all those things came, or I think are leading up to this point. And I think they're going to backtrack it. And then they're going to start talking to witnesses, that knew him, saying, hey, what was he talking about at this time? Did he indicate anything else? Because I think it was a slow movement down this dark path that they're going to have to really time out. Again, motive doesn't have to be proved. The juries like it. They like to paint this picture saying, why did this very intelligent person go from this to actually murdering someone? I think the jury's going to want to know that.
Jillian, we've talked a lot about the family of Mangione, this prominent family in Maryland, and his upbringing, his Ivy League background. But we're learning that police still haven't talked to family members. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't, because of the position of the family. So now with this national media coverage, I would assume that the family, being in the position they are, would have counsel, and the police would not be authorized to talk to them without the presence of their attorney. They're doing it for two reasons. Right now, he has charges pending in Pennsylvania. He has the forgery. He has the possession of an illegal firearm. He has a slew of other things, as well as a pending indictment here in New York City for murder. His family's probably been guided by his attorney not to speak with them.
And Rob, if they think they already have enough evidence to prove Mangione did it, when we're talking about police and investigators, you touched on this, they may not need the motive, but just how important is the why, or answering how someone with his background could have become a killer?
Well, you never have too much evidence, even though that the gun will be the major piece of evidence linking him to the crime scene. But I think in today's juries, they really want to hear, they want to understand the one picture that we're seeing of him before this dark period and how he got to a point where he actually murdered someone. They want to see that. They want to see the evidence tied to that. They want to be able to see this timeline of him sliding down. Just because when you're sitting there and you're about to put someone, behind bars for the rest of your life, you kind of want to understand that. The premeditation, I think, is going to be easy with all the planning and the notebook and such and what he took to do it. But the motivation of him going down from what they're seeing on, like she talked about, this family raised in Maryland, very affluent, to someone who's now fleeing on buses after murdering someone. The jury's going to want to see that.
We've seen how this crime has really revealed broader outrage toward the healthcare industry. And now we're learning a woman was just arrested on Tuesday, in fact, in Florida, for threatening an insurance company by ending a phone call with the words delay, deny, depose. Those three words also found written on bullet casings at the scene. Jillian, there's a lot of angry rhetoric out there, but I'm just wondering, at what point does law enforcement take action? Like, when does a threat rise to that level?
So, of course, people have their First Amendment rights, and they could say certain things that they feel like they need to say. But once it reaches that level of violence, or once it reaches that level of threat where an individual actually feels fearful for their safety, that is immediately when law enforcement must get involved.
Rob, what's your biggest concern in this current threat environment?
I think you talked about it. Healthcare companies knew they weren't popular. But the fact that there's so many people siding on the side of a person who murdered someone, I think is scary. I think it's frightened them to the point where they're really starting to understand that backlash. I predicted that the threats coming in now would all tie back to this New York City shooting, because when you threaten someone, you want them to be scared. You want them to take fear of something. And now if you point to this, then it goes to, okay, it's going to scare them. And then gathering which ones are really capable of violence and which ones are just threats.